Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. This week I want to address a thought some of you had about me installing these aftermarket fenders on the R35 GTR. For those of you that tuned in 2 weeks ago, you saw me do the full install of the fenders on this car, and I addressed why I was doing it. And the two main reasons being that one, there are carbon fiber vents right here that give it the Nismo look, and it allows me to get some of the pressure out from the winder well when I actually take this car to the track. And I do plan on taking this car to the track, particularly streets of Willow and Willow Springs. The other reason why is there's quite a bit of weight savings. These fenders only weigh 4.3 pounds a piece, where the stock fenders weigh a whole 10.7 pounds a piece. So there's quite a bit of weight savings there. Now you may also be wondering, if you didn't watch the video, why it's not painted yet. And the reason why these are not painted is whenever I install an aftermarket body piece on a car, I like to drive around with it for at least a month, because the car is going to be jostling, it's going to shift, and it's going to do things as I drive around on these very rough roads that we have in LA. And that's actually happened. So if you look up here, there are some stress fractures that I'm going to be able to take care of before I paint the car. And then also this gap here is kind of shifted where it's a little too tight for my preference. So I'm going to be able to sand that down. And that's something I want to do before I paint the fenders. But that's not the question that I want to address here. The question I want to address is, if I'm planning on taking this car to the track, why did I spend all the money on these fenders when I could have bought parts to make the car go faster? And that's what I'm going to address in this video. I'm going to start with discussing what my overall power goals are for this car. And it's not much. I only plan on taking this car what's called FBO, or full bolt-on. Now, to take a GTR full bolt-on, it doesn't take much. All it takes is a full catless exhaust, 3-inch intakes, 1000cc injectors, fuel pump upgrade, and some sort of fuel management in the form of either an Ecotec or a Cobb access port. And some people include E85 flex fuel as part of that package. I'm gonna be honest, I'm probably gonna do the E85 conversion, just probably not right away. So that is gonna bring up the initial question then, why did I spend the money on the fenders instead of immediately starting to take my car FBO? And the answer for that is, I live in California. Now, for those of you that live in California, you know exactly what I'm talking about. For those of you that don't, you may have a general idea of what I'm talking about, or you may know that we have slightly stricter smog emissions, but there's a little bit more to it than that. Now you might be thinking, more to it than that? Really, why are you worrying? I mean, the easiest answer is right there in front of you. I'm not taking the GTR down any extreme roads. I'm not putting in aftermarket turbos. I'm not building the engine. I'm just doing bolt-on parts to get the power that I want out of the car. So why don't you just put the stock parts back on, reflash the ECU to a stock tune, go get yourself a mission, next weekend put it back to FBO, and you're all sorts of good to go. And I've got to be honest, that was my plan. Because to be honest, to put the stock exhaust back on, intakes, injectors, and reflash the ECU to the stock tune would probably take me about a day. And then just the following weekend, put the car back to FBO and I'm good to go. But California has released some new software recently. In the computers that they use to scan the OBD2 port, it goes into your ECU and it's looking for certain parameters that have either been deleted or changed when you reflash the ECU. And the computer will know that you have modified your car and put it back to stock, and it'll automatically disqualify you, because I think a lot of people were doing just that. Now, given the fact that my GTR is my daily driver, that does create a bit of an issue. Okay, so at this point you might be thinking, well, if putting it back to stock and passing that way is an option, why don't I just do what people have been doing for decades for getting past smog, and that is finding a smog tester that gets creative with their testing. And yes, that is something people have been doing for decades, and is definitely one way to get your cars that are modified to pretty much pass smog and be able to be driven on the road. However, that's even becoming an issue with California. As California pushes more and more for people to drive EV vehicles, they're making the smog requirements even more stringent, and they're checking their smog testers even more thoroughly. In fact, just this week, this post popped up on a GTR page on Facebook, and somebody was actually trying to sell their GTR, and they got the notification from the California Air Resource Board that his emission tester was caught doing dirty emissions, and they have flagged all the cars that he's tested, and he has to take it to state ref. Now, this is a real issue for him because he has a built engine and aftermarket turbos. So not only can he no longer drive it on the street, they're not even letting him sell it. He can't even sell his car to someone out of state He is stuck with this car until he finds a way to put a stock engine back in there and stock turbos. And that's going to be very expensive. So that is definitely an issue that, yes, you can get creative testing. You may get by with it, but if your tester gets caught, they can now flag anybody he's tested. And going through the California Resource Board, if your car even looks like it was modified at one point, they will disqualify you. They want it 100% stock. So even if you have blow-off valves that are aftermarket yet still recirculating, they don't care. They will disqualify you. Car has to be 100% stock, and that's a real pain in the ass, and it's really expensive. Now that we've determined that, well, really putting the car back to stock might not work before it gets emission tested, and finding creative emission testing might blow up in my face, the next technique you all might think of is, why don't I just do what a lot of other people do, and that is just register the car out of state, in a state that doesn't have such strict emissions. And I've got to be honest, that's something I used to do. My parents used to live in Oregon, and it was just so much easier to register my Supra, my RX-7, my R35 Skyline GT-R, all up in Oregon because there's no emission requirement. And it was really easy to do. But even that's not becoming a viable option here in LA. Now, yes, as you drive around LA, I do see a lot of Oregon tags and Nevada tags because we're close enough to those states, you can kind of justify being registered in that state and maybe being a visitor. But there's a new program that came out, and to be honest, this is the program that pisses me off more than any of the other programs when it comes to emissions, and that is the Report Your Neighbor program. Oh man, this law just pisses me off to a whole new level, because this law, what it does, it's not really a law, it's a policy, is if you have a neighbor and they see that you have out-of-state tags for more than 22 days, they can report you to the police. And if they come and they see you have out-of-state tags, they will actually reward your neighbor with money for reporting you. That's right. California is now creating a situation where your neighbors can make money off of reporting you for having out-of-state tags. I mean, like I said, this is just a policy that just pisses me off to a whole new level, because we're now encouraging this type of situation where if you have a neighbor that you maybe piss off, they can report you. And not only do they get the satisfaction of reporting you to the police and having your car put back to stock or taken, they also get paid for it. I mean, this is just going to create a whole new situation of anger and resentment amongst neighbors, and I hate this, but it's still something that we have to deal with in California. So as you can see, yes, I would love to take the GT-R to full bolt-on right now and enjoy the extra speed and power. It's just, it seems like right now is not a very good time. That's why I decided to invest in the fenders, because I know I can do it and it's not going to create any issues with my car passing smog. Now, that being said, does that mean I've completely given up on modifying the car? Not on your life. I'm just pretty much in a wait and see area right now, because as you know, a lot of times states will pass these laws and policies and they got all this momentum behind them and all this attention, and they're very strict. But over time, as people kind of forget about them, they become less stringent, less strict, and things are able to slip through the cracks a little bit more easily. One of the things that was just recently brought to my attention is I met with Sebastian over at Specialty Z, and just as a little plug for him, I'm not getting paid for this. If you have a GT-R or any Z car and you live in the SoCal area, this is the guy you want to go to for any of your needs. This guy is a true guru. Like, this guy is one of those guys, if you pull up with an issue, he doesn't even have to look at the car. He'll hear it and pretty much in 10 minutes go, yeah, you have this issue, and know how to fix it. And he does really good work. Anyways, I went out to Specialty Z last weekend and I saw he had a collection of EcoTechs. And of course I start to salivate. I'm like, ooh, I'd love to have that in my car. And I discussed with him the issue of scanning the ECU. And apparently EcoTech doesn't get detected by the California software. So, going FBO might happen sooner than I think, but I still want to wait and see what's going on. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, go and hit that thumbs up button to let me know. It does help the channel out a lot. If you'd like to see more automotive, particularly GT-R content in the future, go and subscribe to my channel. You can now follow me on all forms of social media, which include Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok, and I'll leave links to all of those in the description down below. If you'd like to support the channel, I do have the JD Archer shop. If you go to jdarcher.bigcartel.com, you can see a limited selection of hats, t-shirts, and hoodies I've designed, and there are 2 new designs up there. I did recently put up the RB26 2 liters are for sodas t-shirt, and you will always get what you need from the road t-shirt, and they are up, active, and live for sale right now. If you have any questions or you feel there's anything I've missed in this video, go and post in the comment section down below. I will respond to you. I thank you all for watching, and until next time, forget everything else, focus on the finish line.